And I mean, if you guys want to take, I mean, feel free to do whatever you want, but if you want to open up the video so that we can see you, because we're such a nice small group, that would be nice, but you don't have to. So I'm gonna, hold on, let me just get to my little questions here.
Yeah, I'm moving some stuff around too here. I'm trying to get the screen in the right place.
Yeah, exactly. I have a nice big desktop computer, so get lots of stuff. Okay, hello everybody. I'm sure more people are gonna kind of join in over the next couple of minutes. Is that CJ? Oh, hi. I haven't seen you in a while. Oh, and there's the doggy. Hi, Joanne. Okay, so I'm Jill Cruz. For those of you that don't know me, I am not in my home right now, so I'm trying to figure out my lighting, so please forgive the shiny ghost look. Hi, Belle. That's my uncle.
See you?
Hi. Haven't seen you in a while. Okay.
I'm a lot older.
What was that?
A lot older.
That's what happens. Anyway, so I am a board certified nutritionist, and my background is in functional medicine, but for the past 2.5 years, I've basically been focusing on helping women over 40 with weight loss, sustainable, healthy, lifestyle change type of weight loss programs. So something that I talk with my clients about a lot is fitness. It's a very, I would say, it's kind of like food and nutrition. There's a lot out there. There's a lot of conflicting opinions and beliefs and a lot of misinformation. So I thought it would be great to have Jeff Castaldo join us so that we could do like a little Q&A. So I have questions prepared, but you know, if in between, if you want to jump in, go ahead, or you know, at the end, of course, I would love, you know, please feel free to ask Jeff, because he is just, I've been calling you a master trainer. I don't think that's really the correct title, but you know, you're a certified physical trainer.
Certified personal trainer, and then there's other continuing education that goes along with that. But
yeah,
for the most part, that's what it is.
Jeff owns a gym in Nyack called Nyack Fitness, which is a wonderful small gym that's really geared toward more personalized training and that sort of thing. So they do a lot of corrective exercise type stuff. So people will come in. Actually, the first time I heard about Nyack Fitness, a client came to me and she said, I'm working on my you know, she wanted to lose weight, but she said, I went to this gym to lose weight and, you know, exercise, and they told me that I couldn't do anything until I fixed my knees. So not that she couldn't do anything, but basically not to go into this whole exercise regimen until she got her knees working better, or else she was just going to get an injury. And I was like, what is this gym you speak of? You know, like I was immediately intrigued. And then I moved to Nyack and I've been a member there for 3.5 years and do personal training there. And it's just an amazing, amazing gym. Very high integrity in terms of making sure that people are doing the right thing and not hurting themselves. And that's really the priority, I think, but also getting results, not just, oh, I'm going to the gym for 45 minutes every day for the next 10 years and I look exactly the same 10 years later and my body's the same. It's quite the opposite, like actually getting results. At least that's my interpretation of what you guys
It's accurate.
do. So Jeff, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that.
No, other than Jill, of course, is one of our best client members, following all the protocols we advise.
That's true. That's true. And so what I would like to do is I have specific questions prepared, and so we're going to go through those, and Jeff's just going to answer them, but feel free to jump in if you do have a question or you just don't, you know, like he's using a term that you don't understand. You could also use the chat. I think at this point, everybody's Zoom savvy. There is on the bottom, you can click on the chat box, and you can put questions in there as well, if you don't feel like, coming off camera and talking and all of that. So I'd like to start off with Jeff. Tell us about your background and what got you into fitness training.
Right. Well, I've been as a fitness professional for over 20 years. And I got into it actually when I relocated to Rockland County. And some of my family members encouraged me to get involved as a trainer for a part-time work. I was young and I was trying to find employment with a corporation. And I ended up loving it and actually being very good at it. And I had a very good mentor. Since then, I moved to branching out on my own, visiting clients at home. And then after that, I opened up my first training studio. And then I expanded to a larger studio. And then finally, in 2009, I opened up the 24-hour fitness full service health club. So it is a boutique health club. It's not a giant health club, but we do offer great service and great amenities.
Yeah, definitely. So before I went to Nyack Fitness, I don't think I had really heard of the term overtraining so much.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't think I ever heard of that. And then I sort of started hearing that word here and there, whether it was relating to weight loss or just, getting injuries and all of that. So can you give people an overview of what that means? What does overtraining mean? And, do any of us really have to worry about it?
Yeah, well, it's basically, I like to keep things in simple terms as much as I can so people can relate. And it's basically exercising without proper recovery or proper fueling. And if you've worked with Jill, I'm sure you understand both of those terms, especially fueling and how to eat the proper food for your diet. But also, that's basically really what it is. So we have an objective of what we want to accomplish fitness-wise, and then we're just not properly maintaining how our body is supposed to recover or be fueled to accomplish that. So whether it's a very lofty goal or it's a very easy obtainable goal, you still have to monitor what you're doing. For beginners, it's very easy to understand if you're overtraining. You experience very intense soreness, or you may be experiencing like prolonged fatigue throughout the day after a workout. Okay, so you just get into the gym, it's like maybe your second time in the gym, and you're noticing the next day you woke up and it is really painful to move around. You're not injured, you're just really stiff and sore. But unfortunately, the side effect of being really healthy is that we don't feel these intense effects of what we did. So if our bodies adapt to all these exercises and all these stresses, physical stresses we're putting on our body, which is basically fitness. That's a good thing. Unfortunately, it lessens our ability to understand the clear signs of overtraining. So the fatigue may just become more like you just experience diminishing returns. In other words, you may not be running your 3-mile run as fast, or it's becoming like you feel your body really heavy while you run, and they're not so obvious.
Does it can it hurt? Like if someone's trying to lose weight and let's say they're fit enough that they're not sore like that all the time, but those more subtle signs, they may be ignoring them. Can that actually inhibit or like slow down weight loss? Do you know?
Well, yeah. So like overtraining there's a few okay. If you read like a classic example of overtraining, you're going to see things that make sense, like your decreased performance, there's increased perceived, like we were talking about, your just perceived effort during the workout is tough. Things that are more emotional get involved, like irritability. And then of course, the telltale sign that no one can ignore is that you have a nagging injury. And that's no matter, I hear a lot like, oh, I have an injured knee, but it only hurts after the 3rd mile. Well, you're overtraining. If you have an injury and you're running, and that's overtraining. So you got to do something about it. So regarding weight loss, your bodies adapt. Again, they adapt to everything. And if you're, it's a tricky subject regarding how it affects your weight loss, and it's affected by hormone response. So when we're fatigued or overtraining, our hormones are affected. And of course that relates to food. So actually Jill is more of, she would have a better understanding of how this fatigue that's setting into your body can affect your weight loss. And from my perspective, my job is like to know you're training properly or you're not. And then these are some of the side effects. And I'm being a fitness professional myself, I'm always advising people you should work with a fitness professional or a nutritionist or someone to really advise you through this time.
Yeah. It's very interesting you said irritability, because I wouldn't have even thought of that.
Yeah, well, when I think of that, because it is a classic sign, who's going to like evaluate themselves and say that they're irritable? So it's probably one of those things that gets missed, and only your loved ones that are in your household will really know.
That's right. That's so funny. Gee, I'm being really irritable right now. I better stop.
Yeah.
It must be all that training
Right.
I'm doing. Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Exactly. That's not going to happen. That's why, again, going back to overtraining is tricky, and it's not so simple to figure out. We can read obvious signs. You're diminished in you're not seeing the results you were seeing, or you can't, you can't walk as far as you used to. These are all signs, but they're not really, that's not what it's really about. The experience we see in the gym is someone's really fit actually, and their body has adapted to so many stresses. They're not seeing the classic signs, but it comes out in other ways, which is, how can I possibly burn 450 calories a workout and I'm not losing weight, or I'm gaining weight? And that's because, again, going all the way back to the proper fuel and the proper recovery is not being met. The hormones are out of balance. Look, seriously, if I kind of, when I read articles about this stuff, I'm always a little skeptical, because if you have to weigh out between, I'm going to be completely unhealthy or just not follow an exercise regimen, but I'll try to diet well, versus I may overtrain. I'd rather have someone overtraining, because that you can figure out, than not exercising at all, or just doing a poor job of paying attention to what they're doing.
Yeah, definitely. Got it.
Yeah.
So what about undertraining? Like, how do you know if you're doing enough exercise?
Well, it also could be a host of things that are related to undertraining, but basically, again, it's all about what are your goals, and are you training properly to achieve those goals? And then top of that, to train properly, do you have proper recovery and fueling? So if we look at it as a classic example, undertraining, you could think of, okay, well, we all know that fitness burns calories. And if we have a weight loss goal, and at the end of the week, I'm keeping this very simple. There's other factors why you would eat more calories than you burned. But if we're eating like 2,000 more calories than our goal was to burn, then you're in a surplus of caloric intake, and you have to be in a deficit of the caloric intake, or the caloric burn. Yes, the caloric intake has to be a little bit of a deficit. And again, it's a little tricky. It's not, again, Jill is more of an expert on that. You can't think of it as like, okay, at the end of the week, I need to eat 20,000 calories. Therefore, I need to burn 25 in the gym. No, your body burns calories naturally. And when you understand your metabolism, you would know that, hey, I can probably fuel myself with 2,000 calories. And that's kind of how I maintain homeostasis. So if I add a couple hundred calories at the gym, a workout, then I'm above my kind of homeostasis 2000, and I'm creating a deficit. By the end of the week, I should have a nice 1,000-calorie deficit, including my natural caloric burn, and I should see a healthy decline in my weight.
Right, and gradual, very gradual.
And gradual, right. And another thing about undertraining, undertraining is it's really about the consistency. If you're speaking to just in the fitness, in the gym, it's the consistency and the frequency of what you're doing in the gym is less than optimal. If you really want to make it super simple, it's just not appropriate. So getting into a gym and just saying, I got there and I do the treadmill for 30 minutes, 5 days a week, I'm good, I'm golden, right? I've got my caloric expenditure up, I should be good. Your bodies adapt. So that treadmill for 30 minutes a day, after about a month or two, your bodies are going to really accommodate to it, and it's not going to have the same effect. And again, your consistency and frequency of what you're doing won't match what your goal is.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I see. So it's not just about getting into the gym and doing a certain, like just putting in your time. It's also about what you're doing at the gym. Yes,
what you're doing and monitoring, the data of what's happening. Like there's parameters. Like if you go to the doctor, there's a blood pressure, right? So the blood pressure is monitoring how your cardiovascular system's operating. And if the blood pressure is high, it's telling the doctor there's something wrong with the cardiovascular system. Here's some methods to fix it. And at the gym, we like to think, I like this, I know it's a little, there's some political unrest with Greg Glassman, who's the owner and founder of CrossFit. But he had this chart that I love to use, and it's just a bell curve. And it's just a classic bell curve. And he put a line right in the middle of the bell curve, the middle point, the mean. And he said, to the left of it is sickness, to the right of it is health and fitness. And he said, in a gym, we have to think we're on the right of the line. We're not trying to prevent sickness. We're trying to make healthier and healthier system and trying to move ourselves way over to the healthy field. And I'm not going to say right or left, because that's not a good idea. I'm just going to say over to the fitness side. And so if you think of things like that, the more data you collect, the better off you are. So blood pressure, actually, when you're really healthy, doesn't become as important, because your blood pressure is at a healthy level, as other factors. If we knew things like your body fat composition, which measures how much fat versus adipose or muscle and skeleton or bone is on your system, or in your, how am I trying to say this? So it measures how much fat is on your body compared to everything else, your organs, your tissues, and your bones. Okay. And then there's other things that we could use, like heart rate, monitoring heart rate, or your anaerobic threshold, which is this point of where is my body using aerobic energy to move versus where is it using anaerobic, or it can't use oxygen because the workout is so intense. And that's, if you don't understand that, it's something that you really would want to understand if you come to a gym.
Okay. All right. I want to get into that a little bit more, but first I want to ask you about like the different types of like training, right? Like,
okay.
Like, do we have to, you already mentioned multiple times that the body adapts. So that makes me think that we do have to switch it up. We have to keep it varied. Like, is there a specific type of exercise that's best for weight loss? Or is it just, well, we should be doing all different kinds and that's the best thing?
Okay. Good. Okay. I gotcha. and
I think that leads into the heart rate stuff, right?
Yeah. It does. It's all kind of connected. Fitness whether you're doing cardio or not, or weight loss or weight gain, the rules all apply. You still have to have the same parameters. So, and this is where it gets really serious. Like, if you're trying to figure out the best program or exercises for you to promote weight loss, you have to know you have to know a lot about your body. You have to know what's going on. You have to be educated on the food you're eating. You have to be educated on the exercise that you're doing, your body mechanics, everything. And so plan, you have to plan that you're going to need cardiovascular programs, exercise dedicated to the cardiovascular system. You're also going to need strength training programs dedicated to developing muscle strength. And then, of course, nutrition programs. They're all related. The science has proven that the large volume of cardio, all right, so cardio exercise, doing a lot of cardio training, walking, running, things like that, will lower your heart rate. It'll lower the average resting heart rate. It'll even lower your working heart rate. So when you walk, your heart rate will be a little lower than when you initially started a walking program.
And that's a good thing, right? Having a low heart rate is a good thing in general.
Yes, and that's actually where I wanted to go with this. I was just thinking about that. When you burn fat or unwanted fat, the best, believe it or not, the best workout is something that's very, very low heart rate. It's very low intensity. Actually, it could be like sitting around your house, just moving around your house. It could actually burn the most fat per calorie burned. So sitting on your couch, right? But all right, so I know it's crazy, but it's true. It's because the fat system, and this goes all the way back to high intensity training, right? So you see there's like a real vigorous exercise that actually burns a lot of calories, but the fat that's used in that system, it's low. It's not using a lot of fat because the fat can't metabolize quick enough to provide that kind of energy, but it can if your heart rate's really low and the intensity's low. But but if you think like accounting, if I'm sitting on a couch or just walking around my house, every hour I might burn 20 calories. And this is completely a guess. I don't know. 20 calories. But if I was in a gym, I would burn about 500 calories in an hour. So you can see that it's not optimal just to sit around your house and not exercise, because I'll burn the most fat. And then you get no benefit out of muscle development or cardiovascular development. You're just burning calories you're not even increasing your metabolism.
Okay. So wait, I want to summarize a few things because, so first of all, I thought it was very interesting that you said that there's nutrition, there's the cardiovascular system, and then there's the skeletal system, your muscles, and of course your bones, right? And all that. So when we exercise, we have to be thinking about two purposes, not just burning fat or whatever, but actually building our cardiovascular system, which is like our blood flow and all of that, and our strength. So that's interesting. And then the other point is that when we're like right now, we're all kind of burning mostly fat for fuel.
Yes.
But it's a slow fuel. So like if I get up and I sprint up and down the stairs 50 times right now, I can't get the fuel fast enough from the fat. So my body starts to use sugars or proteins or whatever.
Sugars or oxygen and stuff like that. You start breathing. That's why we breathe heavy, because we're trying to utilize oxygen the best we can.
Right. So but ultimately, if we want to burn, actually lose body fat, we have to think about it as, one strategy is to spend time in that lower heart rate zone for a long period of time, like walking or like biking, not like going really hard, but just kind of moving and not going, you're not breathing heavily and you're actually burning more fat when you're doing that. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And also, and I mean, I hope I'm not getting off topic with that, but you made a good point. Like your purpose is ultimately to create a healthy system. And I remember when I first got into training and I was opening up my own studio. So no one was handing me clients. I had to sell my own service. And nutrition always came up because I believe strongly a proper diet, not supplement. I'm not, trainers are pushed and sold by companies to push supplements because it's an easy fix and an easy solution to nutrition. It's not properly healthy for them, but it certainly helps them deprive their caloric intake.
I see.
And I knew from reading, just simply, studying in my field, I've never heard that. I've never read any personal training book that says, hey, proper diet is a supplementation plan of protein powders and vitamins, and forget the vegetables, So
right.
one of the things I would say is that you have to, your ultimate goal is to develop your strength system. It's a poor term, but develop strength in your body and develop your cardiovascular system. The side effect is that your metabolism is increased, your body's healthier. It filters out the bad food quickly or better, and the system runs better. Digestion's better, cardiovascular system's better, dealing with joint pain is better, everything gets better. So the side effect is that you have strong muscles, higher metabolism, you'll lose weight.
Right.
But given that all the knowledge we have today, proper diet is very, very important. And if we were in a world that only sold healthy foods, this would be so much easier, because the real battle is like, people come into the gym, there are people that are very dedicated to their workout and unfortunately not dedicated to their diet. And what does that mean? And we all know what that means. If you're not dedicated to the diet in our society, you're eating bad food. So that's why I say, like, if our world didn't have all these bad foods, which are very tasty, we may just, nutrition might be a lot easier to deal with, and exercise might be a lot easier to deal with, and
Right.
understanding what's proper fueling. Because there's so many ways you can fuel your body, but the proper way with all these foods and things we can get our hands on is kind of tough to figure out.
Right.
So.
But in terms of the fitness, if we can just remember that getting of the variety is important because our body adapts, and to remember that we kind of are not only because my image, like, I used to belong to Lifetime, which is like this big kind of fancy gym. And you would see all these ladies, it was in Bergen County, New Jersey, all these kind of fancy ladies with makeup on. And there would just be lines and lines of cardio machines, whether it was bikes or treadmills or ellipticals. And you see people just slugging it out, like going hard too. And that was their workout regimen. And maybe they took like a yoga class or something, but they're really mostly just working on their cardiovascular system. They're not building strength.
Yes.
Are they perhaps losing strength by doing that? Can you actually lose muscle?
Yeah. Like that's a good point. Cardio exercise, walking, running is for the respiratory system. Initially, when you get into a program, like say you're a walker and you decide, I'm going to start jogging or I'm going to start running. Well, yes, your initial program, even without lifting a weight, you're going to develop strength in your system to run, but it's not strength training. It's just developing to perform that exercise. You do develop just enough strength for that activity, but it doesn't necessarily develop strength or stress out our muscles or our muscular skeletal system, which is so important. Bone density is one big thing that comes to mind. And so, yes, you have to do cardio. And if you're just doing cardio and, like Jill says, you're slugging it out, in other words, you're overtraining, well, now your body, which is super, super efficient, is like, well, I got all this fat over here and the fat over there, and I got some muscle here. And this person is really like killing it. And we're never taking in the right amount of calories or proteins or carbohydrates. I'm just going to start eating what's on the body. And in a perfect world, it's going to eat fat. No, again, where we go back to, fat is burned best at low heart rates when your body has optimal kind of recovery. These people are kind of pushing the limits. They're well beyond fat. The body starts eating its own muscle. It's very rare that you're going to see that, but common with long people who are very dedicated to cardiovascular exercise, specifically, and it's not, this is very, it's been public for a long time, marathon runners, okay? This is an extreme sport, so it comes with extreme consequences. They have to pay attention to their fueling and their nutrition because their sport requires them to do this type of cardiovascular fitness that burns their muscle tissue. So, and they know it, and it's not necessarily bad to become the best marathon runner for that to happen, but they do have to go and take care of their bodies in the off season, and they have to fuel properly, or else they'll burn so much muscle, they'll get that diminishing return.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So strength training, going back to your question, strength training is super important. I mean, if you're going to go to a gym, I can see someone like, I want to walk outside. It's like me. I like to do my cardio outside, not inside a gym. But strength training, that's really the principle of going to a gym, working with a trainer, doing things like that, because that you have to know what you're doing, and it's so important to your body. Bone density alone is huge. Muscle tissue. So think about this. Fat tissue doesn't take a lot of energy to keep fat on your body, but muscle tissue takes a lot of energy for the body to sustain muscle. So when you see young people who are always kind of strong and muscular, you'll probably see that they maintain that kind of physique throughout their life because their metabolism's so fast and so active because they have so much muscle on their body that has to be maintained.
So basically, if you want to lose weight, really, it's strength training is, well, what you said also, like longer periods of time in that low fat burning stage. So let's say walking or like very mild cardio, and then also doing strength training.
Yes. And well, I'm glad you brought that up too. Like, just because we know that fat burns at lower heart rates, it doesn't mean it's as simple as like, oh, I'll burn fat at lower heart rates. Bodybuilders use this system. They'll train hard with weights. They don't do any vigorous cardio. They do very low res cardio so they can burn calories at a very slow rate that doesn't affect their muscle tissue. Okay, it's a great strategy, but you have to be very dedicated to that program, and they're very dedicated to their nutrition. They're collecting all sorts of data when they work out, the amount of sleep. That's what makes a good bodybuilder. Unfortunately, it's one of the most unhealthiest sports, if you can believe it or not. It's very unhealthy for your body, yes, because they're trying to it's a whole other story, but don't worry about it. But even doing that cardio, it doesn't mean we should always do low cardio either. We have to, if you think of your heart like a performance machine, and it has to be capable of sitting. In fact, I put some bullet points relating that subject. Let me just pull them up so I don't forget one. Think of it as like your low intensity, like sitting and resting. That's a cardiovascular activity. Sleeping, it's a cardiovascular activity. Just think of it like that.
Okay.
Low intensity walking. That's an activity. It's walking at low intensity, leisurely, walking around the park, shopping in a town, which will happen soon. And then moderate activity. I know I keep throwing in these little moderate activity, which is like, you're dedicated to a running program or a vigorous walking program. And then above that, you have anaerobic activity, which is, don't get confused, you're still doing cardio, you're just using an anaerobic system to do cardiovascular work. If you think of these four, named off 1, 2, 3, 4, and then high intensity, which is like sprinting and things like that. So 5 activities. Your heart and lungs have to be capable of these 5 activities. They're essentially different metabolic systems. You leave one of those out, you have a slow metabolism. You have to do them all. You have to be able to operate as best you can at these activities. So if we think about I see some people of all different ages. Let's use age as a stereotypical, not to insult anybody, but as we get older, we may not be as active. So we're probably leaving out high intensity cardio, anaerobic threshold cardio, and maybe even moderate, which is vigorous cardiovascular exercise. That means, well, all the sitting and all the low resolution cardio or low heart rate cardio isn't going to help us, because that metabolism is really good. The ones that metabolize for high intensity cardio are poor, which means you're missing an element. And strength training can be the same way. There's muscles work in different ways, and if we're not strengthening these muscles in all these different ways, then we're not building the metabolism that we need to stay with a healthy muscle.
Okay, there's a difference between, like, since I've been working out at home, which is challenging. There are 2 days a week where I have weights. I have the Viper, which some of you may not know what it is, but it's this really
nice.
cool tool. And I even have, I have weights. I'm like more like lifting weights. But then 1 day a week I watch YouTube videos, and it's more, I think of it as like calisthenics. Are those what you mean by the different ways that you can, I mean, I know that there's like heavy bodybuilding and stuff.
Yeah, no, she's right. So if any of you are familiar with exercise or watched any YouTube fitness programs, which seem to be like the top of the YouTube frequently watched videos, a body weight, which she's referring to like kind of calisthenics, there's not any resistance, it's just body weight. For a fit individual doing body weight exercises, they would probably have high number of reps per exercise, very low rest periods between exercise. So that's an endurance, that's muscle stamina, muscle endurance. Okay, so hiking up a really steep mountain nonstop, that's stamina and muscular strength endurance. And that's what that means. And that's what a fit person doing body weight exercises at high reps, low rest intervals. The other way of training is what Jill also does, is using weights, loaded resistance that are not adapted by the muscles. So maybe I can lift my arms like this, I don't know, 20 times with holding 10 pounds. But if I held 30 pounds, I may only be able to do that maybe 10 times. And that's a different system. That's fatiguing the muscles so quickly, time under tension. It's not a lot of time. 10 reps is only about 30 seconds. And in that 30 seconds, my body went from 3 different metabolic systems. It went from trying to use oxygen, but that didn't work. That's too heavy. Oxygen is not going to keep the muscle pumping and recovering quick enough to keep pushing that weight. And then it jumps up to lactic acid when we feel burn in our muscle, like we're walking up a steep hill on a hot day and we feel all that lactic burn. That's lactic acid. That's actually energy. People think of it as fatigue. No, it's energy. It's like I'm pumping lactic acid to build you up. And then the final one is called the ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. It's a phosphagen system, we call it. It's using a chemical compound stored in the muscle. Every muscle's got this little chemical. And when the synapses fire, and it's really intense and very quick, like a quick movement with intensity, again, oxygen can't create enough power. Lactic acid's not there because lactic acid's more for a little bit longer duration. It's a quick fire, and it throws out this chemical. It creates a chain reaction. Boom, muscle fires. Problem is, its muscles aren't that giant anywhere in the body. They don't have a lot of storage capacity, so we fatigue quickly. But that's a great energy system. That's one that is trickier, like especially as we get older. It's not advisable to go hit the gym. It's like, make sure you get high resistance, ballistic movements in your workout. Those are the riskiest, and we don't really bridge those. We can create a healthy body without those. By just kind of modifying things, or more importantly, creating a really stable body first, creating someone who can do cardiovascular exercise safely. And then once we have that, we can do body weight exercises safely and effectively, and they're challenged. And then we move to the next level, add resistance, challenge them, add to the next level, start doing ballistic movements that challenge the muscle, appropriate for for your skill. All right. So I'm pretty athletic. I'm pretty fit. If I wanted to throw barbells with lots of weight over my head and those kind of movements, I could do that. I wouldn't recommend that for anybody else, but I could still get the same effect just doing exercises that are more appropriate for your skill level, creating that same challenge. And then adaptability. Going back to weight loss, it's all about adaptability in the fitness room. If our bodies adapt to the activity from routines and stuff like that, and not increasing loads, we will see a diminishing return on the effects. So we have to change our program, shift those gears, go from, I'm going to do body weight stamina training. I'm going to do that for like a month or two. And I'm going to shift gears. I'm going to go into resisted loads, challenging my lactic acid system. I'm going to do that for a couple months. Then I'm going to switch and try some ballistic heavy load resistance training. Lots of rest, low repetitions, high intensity.
Okay.
It's not a sweater. You don't sweat much when you do that, but it's very good for bone density, very good for muscle development, very risky. Do it for a couple months. Lo and behold, it's been 6 months since I did endurance training or stamina muscle training. So what do you think happens if I haven't done any kind of stamina strength training in 4 to 6 months? What do you think happens to that muscle structure?
It weakens.
It weakens. And that's okay, because guess what? I'm building other muscle structures. And as it weakens, I go back and pick it up 4 to 6 months later, and I start developing it again. And I develop the next system and the next system. And
All
what
right.
we're doing is creating, and listen, fitness is long term. I can't express enough. I would love that there is going to be a day. I know it's going to happen. There's going to be a day we don't go to a medical institute because we're sick. We go to a medical institute because they're trying to get us healthier. And that means that fitness, and it's happening, we know, like Jill is about my age. When we were young, there was not gyms around in every city or every town.
Right.
Gyms were for athletes. And now the younger generation, they just grow up with an instinctive knowledge that I have to get to a gym. That's my thing. And when I was a kid, physical fitness meant you joined a sport. Now, physical fitness means, oh no, you can go to a gym. You don't have to play a sport. You just go to a gym. You can do that. That's the same, not the same, but it's actually somewhat better, less risky. Going back to where I just came from, sorry, is as we do this, and cardio is the same way. We do periodizations of this cardio as we build this. And again, we see these little dips, because if I wasn't doing body weight training for a while, I start losing stamina, muscle stamina, but I pick it back up. And instead of playing this game, this yo-yo diet, I'm sick and injured, I'm healthy and not. I'm sick and you're playing this game like a good stock, a good quality stock that you want to have forever. So when you retire, you cash out and you love in life. And that goes up and it kind of dips, but it never goes below base. And then it goes up again and then it dips. It doesn't really go back to that section. It goes up and then it dips. And that's how your fitness is. We want to train a system and then give it a break. Let it go away for a little bit. Let your body not be adapted to that system. Go train something else and then bring it back up.
Now, okay, so this is all amazing and I love the way it sounds, but even I feel like I have a pretty good knowledge of fitness.
Am I losing people? I'm sorry.
Well, I'm just thinking, is there a way? So yeah, I mean, I believe from experience that everybody should work with a personal trainer. Like the results that you get, you just can't compare. But let's say there are people who can't afford it. They don't live near a place that has a good gym or a good trainer. Is there a way? I mean, I think just to summarize what we're saying is that in the cardiovascular system and in the strength training system, in both systems, you want to be at the very least, getting diversity in what you do.
Yes.
Like not doing the same routine over and over, like that same yoga video or YouTube video you've been doing for years, throw that away, like keep switching it up. Ideally, you would be working in these different, systems that you're talking about, but is there a way to simplify it so that people who don't have access to a trainer could still see that level
Yeah.
of stock.
Yeah.
I think that's
The stock. I know I'm thinking about stocks right now because it may be the only thing I'm doing. So yeah, so let's bring it back to outside the gym here and get something that's more realistic to understand. Your what we want to do is, it's called periodization, but you don't have to worry about that right now. When we get involved in a program, the most important parts, for a summary of how to get involved or to maintain, or even if you're involved in a gym, how to just take it to the next level of seriousness, really is what it's about. In commitment is frequency and consistency. There's a lot of like Jill said, there's a lot of knowledge you can get from a personal trainer, but even some of my clients that I'm training, I may take a step back and like, I don't want to see you every day. Really, I don't want to see you 2 times a week or even once a week, because you're dealing with such a weight issue that I need you to adapt to cardio. And it's not really weight I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about the cardiovascular system. And I don't need to be sitting there holding their hands while they do cardio. So I'll tell them, like, consistency and frequency is most important. That's a behavior. That becomes a habit. That's not quality of your workout versus I went to the gym and it wasn't that great. No, this is just developing a behavioral pattern. Getting into a fitness program or stepping your fitness program up is about consistency and frequency and being committed and changing your behavior. So a good rule is just dedicate. And I know people, even trainers, think I'm crazy. I've trained someone successfully, by the way, and I said, go to the gym 5 days a week. I knew her schedule. Her work schedule is unusual these days. She actually worked like 9 to 5 and then went home, which was amazing. And she had like an hour window before she had to get home to meet her significant other for dinner. And I said, you come directly here, 5 minutes. That's all I want from you. 5 minutes on either these 2 or 3 cardiovascular machines. She's got a heart rate monitor. I got her set up with that. Give her target heart rate zone, which is a low intensity cardio. And even it was a little bit of a battle at first because she's reading all this stuff on the internet. I got to do high intensity interval training. And I was like, no, we just need to develop a habit right now. I need no excuses. That's what I want from you. I want no excuses. There can be no excuse why you didn't go to the gym after work and did 5 minutes. You don't even have to sleep the night before to do that. And after developing that habit, I'm almost right? And in developing that habit, I developed consistency and frequency. Objective number 1. I've created a hormonal response in her system that says, I need an injection of caffeine, right? It's not caffeine, but you know the effects. We all understand the effects of caffeine. We drink coffee caffeinated, it changes our demeanor. It changes our hormonal response. We feel awake, we feel alive. That's what exercise will do. It affects the same system, the endocrine system. I'm just giving her a little injection of tricking hormones and giving them a little bit of what they want, and all of a sudden it becomes a habit, and it's also in her brain. There's something I do at this time after work that I need. It's not food, it's not sugar, it's not a cupcake, it's exercise. And I'm almost developing, it's a habit. It's a habit that we develop. Once we have that, then we start with the least risky thing we can do for our body, which is cardiovascular exercise. It's no load on our body except our body weight. And there's many machines at the gym that can reduce the amount of load on your body. So if we're someone that's 50 pounds overweight, I wouldn't advise them to go walk on a treadmill or go on what else is aggressive? I don't know. There's some other machines, you won't know what they are, but walk on a treadmill. I may tell them to sit on a bicycle, a recumbent bike, which is the ones that are kind of reclined, an elliptical trainer, if I feel that they have enough stability to hold themselves up on that thing. But basically, regardless if you don't know what these machines are, they reduce impact on the joints. And that person, I don't have to be concerned too much. They have some imbalances. Again, I'm trying to create consistency first. Then once we get them through that and they start feeling the effects, and I've got them with a heart rate monitor. We talked about that, the different types of energy systems they can do cardiovascular. I got them on the low energy system, not to burn fat. I'm trying to build up a metabolism. I don't think of fat in that way. And then once I have them there, I've created habit, and now all I need to do is educate. We just educate, and that's what you should do yourself. You do the same thing. Create the habit first. It doesn't have to be super effective. The efficacy in the beginning doesn't have to be there. And by the way, you know why it doesn't? Your bodies haven't adapted to it. You can do anything that's physical that you've never done before and develop metabolism and strength and cardiovascular performance, because your body has no adaptation to it.
Okay.
So 5 minutes on that bicycle for this woman was great. She didn't even know it. She couldn't feel it, but it was excellent. And then eventually we moved her programming up, more intensity, longer duration, with more rest. And now she understood rest. Like, oh, right, I can't do this every day, a half an hour on the machine. Like, right, no, you're going to do cardio X amount of days a week in that 5-day window that we were already committed to. And then we're going to add strength training. And then you just educate yourself about it.
All right, cool. So this is like, if I want to leave time for questions, because it's already
okay.
51,
Yeah.
52 actually. But I think there's so much, like you could talk for 5 hours about this and we still would I would want to know more. I don't know about everybody else. But like, to summarize what you just said, for somebody who's kind of either not working out or they don't have a great routine, the first step is to actually build a consistent habit with frequency.
Yes.
And then to kind of build up their cardiovascular health. And then they can start worrying about periodization and what type of strength training they have to do and all of that, and heart rate, get real heart rate training and that sort of thing.
Yeah. And I didn't mean to like think that that's what, and again, going back to things we find on the internet, it's super simple to get fit. It really is. It's so simple. And I don't want anybody to get lost with, well, I got to make sure I do the strength training and the phosphagen system and the lactic. No, you don't need it. It's all about adaptation. And once you get started with the low risk, low intensity stuff, then by then you can start educating yourself or hire a professional, and then you can start getting more. It's just like, if anybody's been with Jill, you know that a tomato is not a tomato. There's all sorts of different tomatoes and usefulness for it, right? And what it does for your body. And that's what I mean. Like, when I'm not a nutritionist, as a personal trainer, I'll prescribe vegetables. Like, eat your vegetables, eat clean proteins, but I'm not going to distinguish with them. Eat this kind of tomato mixed with this green, and make sure you use apple cider vinegar, not balsamic vinegar. I'm not going to say any of that. That's not where I am. All I know is that vegetables are good for you. You should eat them. And like, hey, wait, there's much more to vegetables than just vegetables are good for you. Certain vegetables aren't good for me. Other ones are good for my system, right? Yeah. So that's where exercise is. Just start with the basics, cardio and strength training, body weight strength, cardio machines that are low impact, and then just get consistency and frequency first. Once you're there, you're going to feel inspired to either educate yourself or to hire a professional. And there's lots of like Jill was saying, she was resourcing exercise videos during this time because she can't visit her favorite gym. And that's fine.
Right.
And and even I mean, that's it. That's all I need to say.
Okay.
That was good.
So I do have one question in the chat that's been there for a while. And if anybody else has questions, please, feel free to put them in the chat or after we answer this one. I currently wear a Whoop band. What are your thoughts on devices like this? Can it help your fitness goals?
Yeah. Okay. So I think if I understand Whoop, I think that's the one that tracks metadata and other data that Jill's familiar with. She's got a Ring, right? This device is good. I think data, in fact, that was something I wanted to talk about. I'm not going to go into details with it, but data collection is imperative when you're doing fitness. The more data you collect on your exercise programming, the better your success will be. And it's much simpler than trying to collect data on nutrition. That's hard stuff. You can pretty much know the calories you took in, but other than that, you don't really know how much vitamin A you took in versus vitamin B, and did you take enough C to metabolize vitamin A. Exercise is real clear. You get a heart rate monitor. The Whoop thing monitors your heart rate. It also, I think, monitors sleep. It monitors heart rate variability, which is how well you're going to perform that day. So those devices are great. What I will say about that is, don't think that because I tracked that I did 50,000 steps this week that I exercised. There is exercise in the gym, there's sport, and there's just stuff you're supposed to do every day just to be a human. And taking steps is just something we do. And I wouldn't, if I counted that as exercise, I'd never exercise again, because I think I must take 30,000 steps a day. And adaptation again. So it's good for doing that stuff. Tracking steps is good because it just makes sure, like, hey, I wasn't sitting on my butt all day. I actually got some walks in. But I would technically turn that thing off, the step counter, when you go into a gym, because I wouldn't want to confuse the two. Like, I was on a treadmill. I did my 20,000. No. Treadmill is there to do cardiovascular training, not steps. It's to monitor how much stress we put on our heart for a specific amount of time in a specific zone. Data collection. That thing will actually tell you that. It'll say at 5 o'clock, you were at 65% of your maximum heart rate for 30 minutes. And lo and behold, that was the program that my trainer told me to do. So I'm good. So I'm good with those things, as long as you know how to use them and use them appropriately.
Do you have a specific heart rate monitor that you recommend?
Well, I do. I like the Polar heart rate company. They were the first to come around, and they do a good job with keeping their technology up to date and making it user friendly. But it's, there's a lot of there you go. There's your Polar heart rate. As Jill knows, they don't have cool things like the Ring that calculates data and it's on a ring. Like, they just, it's, I wouldn't say old school, but it's scientific study stuff. It's like a chest strap with an armband and a watch. And I wouldn't call it expensive. I mean, 300, it may sound expensive. It's $300 for a watch, a really good one, and a strap to go with it. But I mean, we're talking about your heart health and your body.
And this is $80, so you could get this and just use the app on your phone too.
Yeah, that's true. She's right. There's apps that will read the devices. So you can, there's many ways at a good cost-effective rate to get the stats you want. My only thing is, I would recommend something that could monitor. Hold on. I would get something that's dedicated to fitness that can track everyday performance. In other words, don't buy an Apple Watch that's designed for everyday functions and it happens to have a fitness feature. Go the other way around. Get something that's dedicated to fitness, and then it has some apps that will track your sleep. It'll track your steps. It'll know where you've been. Like, it'll track where like GPS locations. It'll communicate with your phone to feed information into the phone. So that's why I like Polar, because it'll do all that.
All right, so it's 2:59, but we do have, I guess this will be our last question. And if anybody needs to jump, please do. Kelly says, I have Hashimoto's and my metabolism has become very slow. She's been doing Lift 4 Beachbody, which is a mix of HIIT, which is high intensity interval training, and interval weight training. What else should I be doing to increase my metabolism? So this is obviously.
I haven't been able to lose weight in about, So
yeah, that's
great.
We could spend another hour trying to answer it.
No, we could, but I'm gonna do it short. I promise. It'll be short. classic sign of someone who could be, not a classic sign. This is one of those examples of someone who could be overtraining and not knowing it, because you don't get the classic signs of soreness and chronic fatigue. What I would say to you is if anybody was paying attention to that or can read that, it's great to see this. Beach body workout, mix of HIIT, that's high intensity interval training. Very, very intense, good stuff. And interval weight training. Interval weight training is that it's not super high intensity, it's more focused on developing muscle. So she's hitting a high intensity cardio. She's hitting strength training at the more like the endurance stamina position. If I understand it correct, I could be wrong, but it might be more there. If I'm wrong, then it's more like the lactic acid system. So in her case, what she'd want to do is she would want to move away from that program and start doing strength training that is slower. It's got more rest periods with higher weight loads, higher intensity on the exercise, longer rest periods. That's a different energy system. And then regarding the cardio, she's not doing low sustained cardio. So lower resolution or lower heart rate, sustained 30-minute to 45-minute cardio. It's not going to make you sweat as much. It's just going to work a metabolism that you don't focus on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she should do more, like basically heavier weights.
Heavier weights, yes, with longer rest periods. It's the riskiest. Remember I was talking about it's risky. That's really risky. She'd want to read literature or follow someone that can help her with that, like YouTube or a personal trainer or something like that. And then with the low resolution cardio, that's easy. Just go, whatever you can keep. If you can walk. If you can run. If you have access to a fitness machine, use it.
So I understand that as like let's say you have a bike or, elliptical, you're on there for 25, 30 minutes and you're breathing heavy, but you're not like, like it would be, is it like the 65 to 75% area?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. So if you had a Whoop fitness thing or a heart rate monitor, it kind of tells you too, when you buy these devices, it tells you exactly what we just discussed about cardiovascular training. You would pick that zone and say like, or actually wear it while you're doing the interval weight training system, the Beachbody, and you'll see where your heart rate is during those cardio intervals. And you'll be like, okay, well, I need to do the opposite. I need to go into the yellow zone or the 65% zone, long, steady duration, because that's what I'm missing. I'm doing things in intervals. I'm going high, low, high, low, high, low. And now I need to go just high, moderate and steady.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And rest. Rest is exercise, by the way. Taking a day off.
Yeah. This is great, Jeff. I don't know
I know you understand. I hope everybody could understand some of the points I was saying. I apologize if I kept it a little too technical. The end point for everybody who is interested in being here is really develop a behavior with something cardiovascular first. Get heart rate monitors, get things that collect data. And it's actually useful when you go to your doctors too. You can give very empirical evidence. You could just say, like, when they say, do you go to the gym? Now that is just a general question, but if they say, do you go to the gym? I would give them as much information as I can. For me to say I go to the gym, they ask me, I say I own a gym. Does that answer your question? They say yes. No, it doesn't. It doesn't answer your question. I've owned a gym and there was a period I didn't exercise for a year straight because that's the way that I had 2 little kids and the gym was just opening up some personal training studio. But having that heart rate monitor, knowing what you're doing at the gym would be helpful. Yes, I do heart rate. I do cardiovascular training. I make sure I hit everywhere from 50% of my maximum heart rate to 90% of my maximum heart rate when I train. When I work with weights, I do things that build bone density. I do things that are really heavy and vigorous. I also do things that are more like body weight and increase endurance. Then you got a doctor paying attention who's like, well, then there's no reason that your blood pressure and your cholesterol should be climbing. Let's take a further test and see what's the answer is. I'm not going to put you in that little, you know, bucket of like, oh, you're over 60 years old. Everybody's heart rate, you know, cholesterol goes up.
Right.
It's going to be more serious, right?
Yeah. So, okay. So, what I want to do is I have a one or two blog posts I've written about heart rate training that, like, if any of you want to learn more, you can definitely read that. I think I even make recommendations for the polar monitor and stuff like that. So just so if anybody wants more, you can get more information. So this was recorded. I will send it out to everybody who attended and everybody on my email list. So if you want to watch it again, you can. Like, I feel like I want to watch it again. And this was, Jeff, thank you so much for spending an hour and 6 minutes with us here.
Oh,
because I know you must be very busy right now trying to hopefully open up soon.
yeah, I got people waiting outside my office right now.
Oh, okay, everybody loved it. Thank you so much. Everybody's saying thank you. And thanks everyone for attending. And if you have any questions, just please let me know.
All right, thank you, Jill. Thank you, everybody, for coming out and listening. And I think any kind of advice on fitness is good advice, and we're always here to help. We have a lot of good programs when we're open and functioning. I don't say that because it's my own business. We do have a really strong team, people who are focused on health and wellness and know what they're doing. So
Yeah,
beneficial.
definitely.
All right, thank you.
All right, bye everybody.
Thank you.